Welcome everyone to the Sonny Chung Show. I am your host, Sonny Chung, and today we have a truly remarkable guest with us. He's a pioneer in real estate industry. He built over a million square feet in commercial real estate. He have over 38 years of extensive knowledge in development and also in commercial real estate. Please join me in welcoming Paul Frank, the CEO and the president of PDF Group, powered by EXP Commercial. Paul, it's an honor to have you on my show today.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks, Sonny.
Thank you. Lisa, I want to just share with the audience a little bit about you. Is there something you want to add on to this, and so they can know more about you, Paul?
Yeah, I think to follow up, I've been a commercial real estate developer and broker for, as you said, close to 4 decades now. And over my career, I've developed and brokered a lot of property, covering all property classes throughout the United States and internationally. So it's pretty broad spectrum of experience, both on the brokerage and development side.
It's kind of interesting. I talk to a lot of developer that develop in the United States but never abroad. Can you share a bit experience? What's it like to develop from internationally?
Yeah, it's been in North America, and it's been primarily it was in the QSR space, both in Canada and in the Mexico market as well. We've looked at some projects in Europe, Italy, and some other places like that, but we have not pursued those. So the majority of it is both Canada and Mexico over the years. And it's frankly been a while, and the rules change quickly. So what I experienced with those projects and site selection is quite a bit different than what's going on today.
Okay, that's pretty. When you do a site selection for development project, what particularly that you're looking for, or that what you aiming to when you do a site selection, Paul?
Yeah, I mean it's all about opportunity, and there's whether it's a office project that I'm developing or industrial project that I'm developing, my criteria is going to be a little different than if it is a build to suit as a merchant developer. Let's say that Burger King or Chick-fil-A or one of those companies has their sites on a given market. They will have very specific demographics and traffic counts that you have to meet in the selection of that site. So it depends who the end user is and who is generating the project, whether it's for somebody else that sets that standard or that criteria, or whether it's for myself and what I'm trying to achieve on a personal basis or investment basis.
Can you walk me through a journey? How did you get into real estate development, and what inspired you to pursue this career?
It's a somewhat of a long story. It is a long story, but it all started. I was born in South Lake Tahoe, here in California. My dad was a pit boss in the gambling industry, and my mom was a cocktail waitress. And my dad decided early on that the gambling industry wasn't where he wanted to raise a family, so he started playing with this thing called real estate. And I was blessed to have a father that dressed me up in a little suit and tie and took me literally everywhere with him from a ridiculously young age. And I'm talking 5, 6 years old. I went everywhere with my dad. So the experience that I got during those very challenging times that he was fighting to get a start and make a living in an interest rate environment that was 18, 19, 20, 21% interest rates, I've learned a lot and got a lot of perspective. In fact, one of my favorite stories, just fast forwarding from one end to the other, So I was about 7 years old in my little suit and tie with my dad on the south side of Golden Gate Park at somebody's home office, and the meeting was not going well. And I was looking out the window at the Golden Gate Park, and there were slides and swings, and all I was thinking about was, I'm going to get to go play on that when it's done. So the meeting was heated. I recall that, and we left. And my dad, who was 6'5", 265 pound, tight end in college, he walks out of that meeting with the 7-year-old version of me holding my hand, and he looks down at me and he says, "Never do a deal for the sake of doing a deal." Which, who says that to a 7-year-old? But I can still see his face. He passed away in the 90s, but I can still envision the moment that he told me that. And fast forward to 2006, and I had just developed several fairly large office projects, and the banks were giving me any money I wanted. It became too easy. And a number of the brokers were bringing me projects saying they were no-brainers, and I wouldn't even pull my calculator out because it didn't make any sense. And the banks were still going to give me the money for it. And I remember my dad saying, "Never do a deal for the sake of doing a deal," which means just because you can does not mean you should. And those words when I was 7 is what kept me on the sideline as we went into 2007 and 8 and the perils that followed in our industry. So his statement that day at 7 years old, I would not be here today if he didn't say that to me.
I really thank you for sharing that. Is have a father figure that guide you and make sure you do the right things, and to do the deal, not to do the right deal, not just for the sake of doing a deal, is really resonate well from at a young early age, for you to step in this direction and this path that you're going through.
Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that, Paul. And as you know, real estate evolve all the time, and every situation have up and down challenges, and you've been through many cycle of it. What the most significant challenge that you face in your career during that time, or any time that you have in your career, and how did you overcome them?
Well, I'll tell you, emotionally and personally, there's been examples of deals that were difficult and things like that. But I think that what shook me to my core the most in my professional life was that moment that I was talking about, that my dad's words kept me on the sideline, because I was passing on these projects and other developers were picking them up, and they would start to go vertical, meaning that they'd go through the entitlement process and they'd start building them. And I had what I would define as an identity crisis. All I knew was real estate and development, and the rules were completely skewed and nothing was making sense. The banks were giving them money to do these projects. They didn't work at all in my mind. And I thought, I can't do this anymore. So I actually went and took the LSAT. I was going to go to law school because I thought I don't understand real estate and real estate development anymore. So I went and took the LSAT and to go to law school. And before I enrolled, my phone started ringing from some bankers. And this was before anybody knew that there was an implosion coming. And they brought me in because they had these issues. And they said, we need your help on this. And in hindsight, what was going on was that they had a whole bunch of troubled loans. The developers, for the most part, because they didn't stay on the sideline, were all toxic and made some bad decisions. Most of the brokerage world, all they knew how to do was put a sign in the ground and sign papers. So they brought me in to do pre-foreclosure assessment, as well as stabilization and disposition of the REO assets. But the first 5 properties that I got sent out to were actually projects that I had passed on in the years prior that I didn't think made any sense. And now I was arriving on site with a file of a half-built or vacant disaster. And that was sort of my epiphany that I wasn't quite as dumb as I thought I was. And this identity crisis that I was pretty troubling personally, that it was accurate. So it was that was a huge, dip and peak right there in my personal and professional life.
Wow. So there's always, it's funny, you helped me remind me of a quote. Every obstacle, there's always opportunity, right? And when you see it and then you just see it and you have an epiphany that you know what you're doing, but it's about you're so confident is coming back out to alive. And
Yeah.
that's it's great. So as you part of EXP and sound like you have a big vision for your companies, can you share a little bit why you decide to collaborate with EXP Commercial?
Yeah, that's so I've been on my own from the development brokerage side. I had my own brokerage company for decades and had been pursued, both recruited to other brokerages and then those that wanted to buy, and then other franchise models on the commercial side that wanted me to look at their opportunities, and I was never interested. I had my logo and my branding, and it was my initials, and I was staying dry and keeping my family fed, and had zero interest in losing that autonomy. And the EXP was originally brought to me by Joey and Brent. Well, let's say, I don't know now, probably 8 years ago or thereabouts. And I politely told them on many occasions over a 5-year period that I am literally the last human being on the planet that's going to fall for this garbage. You're better off spending your time with somebody else. And over and over, and I'm like, seriously, there's zero chance, not happening ever. And then I had another epiphany that maybe I prejudged this thing a little too quickly, and I decided to take a deeper dive. And it's weird. I don't know why exactly, but I had something was compelling me to give it a try. And I actually went to Vegas to meet with James Wong, the president of EXP Commercial at the time, who's a wonderful guy, and proceeded to sit down and tell him every reason why I should have nothing to do with this thing. And he answered every question. And I left that meeting and talked to my team and said, hey, for some reason, I'm compelled to try this. If you're not interested, I will fully support you and help you get a spot at CBRE or some other brokerage. But for me, I need to give it a try. And it was the best move and decision I've ever made in my career.
Wow, that speaks highly about this platform. I was in the same boat when Kevin and Daniel approached me about this EXP. I did laugh at it at first because I didn't understand the model, and now I get a hang of it. But they more think that Jim Hong is implementing, to help every agent. It's kind of agent run, and I think I made the right decision, like you, to join EXP organization, and I'm glad to have you. Because of it, I get a chance to meet someone like you and learn from you, and hopefully we can collaborate in the future.
Yep. Fabulous community on both sides of the ball. As I often use sports analogies because I coached for a very long time. So, but the realty side and the commercial side and EXP proper, just a wonderful community and support structure.
When you talk about supporting, and you mentioned when you coaching, can you share a bit about what coaching that you do for in your field?
Yeah, well, you'll hear, not necessarily here, but a lot of people refer to me as coach or Coach Frank. So I was an
Correct.
athlete and a coach, sports coach for most of my life. I coached 25 plus years, multiple different sports at the youth, high school, and collegiate level. So, and I've also done business coaching, mentoring for nearly as long. So that's where that coach or Coach Frank that you'll
I
hear
heard.
used. It's not some title that I just bestowed on myself for marketing purposes. I've just, for a quarter century plus, I've been Coach Frank or Coach Paul, depending on who it is.
So more about sport. I thought when you talk about coach, I thought you have a online course. You're going to coach people about real estate. Is that something you think about doing as well, or is in your
Yeah,
agenda?
yeah. I've never, that's one of the things about EXP, is that it's opened the door to a lot of collaboration and teaching and speaking and talking on things like this that I just never had the chance or never really desired to do. But yeah, I do a lot of within the EXP platform. I'm a certified mentor, and I have mentees, several of them around the country. I also am on the National Agent Advisory Council that kind of directs some of the issues within the commercial platform. And then I also do a lot of training and work with the residential agents to help them expand their business into commercial real estate through some strategic, tactical uh, angles of working between the two platforms that we've seen tremendous success with.
I love how you put you kind of give back in the silver lining that you coach people, you share your knowledge and have mentee. And that's one thing about this platform, to have someone like you have experience and willing to give back, because your mindset from just talking to you is more about abundant mindset. Like you like to give back, because toward the end of the day, that's what we do, right? We human interaction together, and we hopefully can grow together, right? So doing your journey in real estate and coaching people, sometimes good, sometimes bad on your personal as mission statement. How did you stay motivated and continue to grow both personally and professionally after so many years in the industry? And the second question, how did that reflect in your overall life, and what you have going on right now?
Um, some of it is wiring, some of it is just how I was raised. I mean, on a athletic standpoint, I've always, whatever the field of that you're engaged in, from a competition standpoint, I've always, I think, started with my dad telling me that there's always somebody that's stronger and faster and better looking and richer. So that humility standpoint of it was always there. And even if you are the best of the best, there's somebody coming after you to take your spot. So I've never, I guess, taken a breath or had that sense that I could relax. There's always somebody coming after you, and that need to keep moving forward has always been there. I'm often asked, about retirement, and frankly, guys like me don't retire, and if we do, we tend to die pretty quickly. So I don't think that ever happened. But yeah, it's not like there's, in fact, um, well, number one of the questions which you may be planning on asking me is how I define success. And I've always had no problem defining that consistently, especially after my dad passed away in the 90s.
Mm,
And I define success by the number of people that show up to your funeral and what they have to say, because that is a true measure of what you did with the time God gave you on this planet. Unlike any bank account or financial statement can determine. So touching those lives, and the more impact that I can have, the more success that, in my definition, that I'll have.
Well, that resonated well because who actually showed up when you're gone is the life, the impact that you have on people. I think that's legacy wealth than anything else, right? Beside the
Yeah.
real estate and everything is your influence on others to help them succeed. I think that people remember you more than anything else on it. And then thank you for sharing it, Paul.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I mean, I appreciate you sharing your wisdom in this podcast on it and share with your experience and how you view of life and how you look at it. I just want to ask you a last question to close this thing out. And I respect for your time. Let's say you achieve all your goals and everything that you have done. Um, and today's your last day on this planet, right? And what's the three most important lesson you would like to pass down to younger generation, or guys in my age and get into real estate, or try to be a developer, or whatever they want to do, right? What kind of three most important lessons you want to share with them, and how you would like people to remember you by?
Well, that's a very timely question. Without getting totally sidetracked, I will tell you this, that on Saturday, I was 30 feet away from the president when he got shot in the ear.
Oh
So
wow.
I spent some time on the ground in front of him, contemplating exactly in real time what you're talking about, and looking at the people to my right that were shot. Um, so it's, people say it, but family. Certainly didn't think about any of my projects.
Mhm.
Did not think about any bank accounts or stock accounts or anything like that. I just thought about my daughter, and my son, and my wife, I was on top of, and that's all you think about. And whether all that other stuff, there's a bunch of quotes and cliches about that stuff, but
Right.
in real time on Saturday, um, I experienced it and made the phone calls, laying in the dirt, not knowing if we were going to get out of there. So family is by far number one, um, without question, and
Um,
potentially number two and number three in my eyes right now.
after that incident, I think your mindset shift and you might have an epiphany what going on in your life current stage, right? Um, I mean, if that was I I can't imagine what I went through. I'll probably first thing I would have epiphany is a family first, then anything follow of it, right? And then your faith, and then yourself
Yeah,
afterwards. You actually cover yourself to protect your family because that speaks highly of you as a family man and a leadership because you rather take the bullet instead of your kids, your daughter have to bear in that. That's very painful to see someone you love get hurt.
yeah. Well, again, in real time, Corey was in the upper left, who was the fireman that was protecting his wife and daughter. Um, I'm watching him perform, trying to perform CPR and save his life, and that's exactly what he was doing, was trying to protect his family. So,
Wow.
yeah, never bank accounts and properties and balance sheets and all that stuff doesn't come with you, and it does not mean anything at that moment, without
No,
question.
I would imagine that's a secondary, right? Because when we pass away with nobody gonna leave out of this game of life alive anyway.
Yeah,
We right and then and sometimes we take a sidetrack what reality is. And I do that too. And I'm still learning on it, right? So by talking to someone like you and learn from you, I can apply some circumstances, some knowledge that passed down from you to me, so I can help to grow myself as a person. And that's the whole point for the podcast that I'm trying to accomplish, it to share human experience and how they grow as a person.
Yep. Yeah. Another thing that my dad always drove home to me was you will inherently become successful if you help others succeed. And, that's in those moments right there. People talk about carbon footprints. In my mind, it's more about human imprint and what impact you're making by your influence and the time that you have. And that's what's going to ultimately, you can change lives depending on how you dedicate your time and resources to other people's lives, and inherently that'll come back and benefit you, hopefully.
Well, thank you very much to sharing your thought today, Coach Frank, and I appreciate your time. Um, and I'm looking forward to collaborating with you in the near future. Whatever we have, I love what you do and what you share on this podcast. Is be a few golden nugget here that I think people can listen to it and hopefully get something out of it. And again, thank you so much for your time.
Appreciate you. Thank you very much.